All right, Maestro, we got the tones of Spoonie G in the background. Apologies if it's a bit loud down here at Urban Golf. Let me just fish a club out. Ah, there you are, I'm back. All right, I think we'll rattle through on this occasion. Loving your work in the main. But yeah, some contentious points. I think don't really mind whether you do this or that or this. I would literally go with the one that's most comfortable, and I would also go with the one that allows you to put your right hand on in a fashion that mimics the club face. So I know you'll be pretty comfortable with that, but if I was trying to sort of top spin forehand or backspin, slice, you know, whatever I was trying to conjure, this would be my club face, my right hand, as the name would suggest. So palm to the sky, face to the sky, palm to the ground, face to the ground, that kind of shenanigans. So at least I've got that kind of continuity there. If I start to put my right hand a little bit more ham-fistedly underneath, I think it can lead to probably more problems than it creates. But again, generally if the wrists are mounted this side of the handle, then you're going to flip the club face over and you're going to get into problems. So we've been there before, and I think we've neutralised that problem a little bit, and we get a slightly more neutral ball flight. So that's cool. I hope that deals with the hold question at least reasonably well. But again, certainly there are videos available to you on the website which deal with the basics of aim and hold. So I refer you to those. If you want me to send you links, just remind me on that one. Okay, so in sort of chronological order from sideways on. For me, the emphasis on rotation, as you call it, when you see the glutes, when you get that rotation, it being a rotational game, we're always going to be able to generate more force. There are subtle variations on that theme, but the rotation is ever present to a lesser or greater extent depending on flexibility and strength. But we do want to rotate. Now, as a result of rotating, we open up the possibility of delivering more efficient patterns of what you might call release of the club. So if my body, our body, rotates in the backswing, I'll talk about that in a second, stops, ceases, stalls, is lethargic, whatever, if it's just synchronized and sequenced in a way that I'm basically facing the ball when I hit it, one thing you might notice is a tendency to stretch up, which is the poor man's version of dealing with the problem of hitting a ball. If you're trying to hit a ball and your body stops rotating, stretching up is a way to alleviate some of the stress that it causes on the body. But what will invariably happen is if the body stops rotating, the arms will find some way to collapse. Chicken wing is a little bit of the way you've found at the moment, which does help keep the face open. If you're not liking the fact that your hold is tending to close the face, then you can reverse rotate your arms to keep the face open. So something like that. But that has a rather ungainly look to it. The funny thing is Jordan Spieth has made a bit of a career of it. So he doesn't have a particularly strong hold either, but when he hits through, we get a sort of stretching up and the left arm folds away. Lee Westwood loses loads of height, correspondingly bends this arm, so that raises the low point of his swing at the same time as the middle of his swing is going down. So you've got like checks and balances going on, which you would probably do well not to even lose too much sleep about. So we don't have such issues other than a mild case of when the rotation is slightly underplayed, the arms are bailing out this way and the radius of the swing gets narrower, so we're susceptible to thinning shots. The response to thinning it might be trying to move your swing downwards. That is really putting the cart before the horse. What we want to make sure we do is we rotate profoundly, and that will put our whole right side, our right shoulder, our right hip, our right knee, our right ankle, our right wrist, our right elbow. If we get them all to arrive, at the same time, almost kind of something like this. If we get everything to arrive sideways on, club on the right of us, hands on the right of us, arms predominantly on the right of us, right hip on this side of us in relation to the task at hand, then I think we're going to be able to deliver significantly more force more often, and also let the club released evenly and continuously, rather than trying to sort of alleviate stress on the body by buckling the elbow out this way. A video that I would recommend you watch, because it deals with the subject more thoroughly than realistically I've got time for with this. Not so much I've got time for, but just, I could end on talking about every facet of the swing in one video, which is a little bit ambitious and unrealistic. But that forearm rotation in the 40. This constant even release of the club would regulate the rate of closure, opening and of closure of the club a little bit more efficiently. So there's a video on, I think it's called Forearmed is Forewarned. A video, it's one of the series, 1 Minute to Master series of tips. And that constant, graceful, elegant, continuous, even rotation of the lead arm, a very important way to stabilize the club and keep it pointing broadly where you're swinging the whole time for a neutral approach. So you get a lot of kind of, relatively straight shots. You're not going to get a lot of banana curves. If you want to hold the face open to the path, then I would say an express route to that is holding off the club, sort of prolonging that, almost like a crickety look to it, that cover drive. So when you get your rotation going, it's worth your while letting your forearms freewheel, letting this elbow fold and rotate underneath, as it will hopefully look on camera there. So your rotation is the constituent part, it's the basis for being able to do that and make it worthwhile. If you stop rotating and flip that club over like that, you'll hook. But if your body is rotating, the club will stay online for longer, and the arms will regulate themselves by and large. And again, I'll refer you to that other video. But that's really what we're aiming for. We're aiming for loads, bags of rotation, as much as you can do, and we're going to let that club freewheel through impact, and we shouldn't get excessive closure and excessive openness and bouncing back and forth from one to other, unless we want to deliberately curve it right and left, which is an option. Okay, loving what you've done, and I think it's important. We'll just move the subject matter to this down the line view, where we're keeping that right knee more stable. We don't really want to get, right leg extended and stuff, and I think you've done really well with that. But it's interesting because things can occur when you move or shift your movements in certain directions. It might expose frailties in terms of levels of flexibility and strength. So I'm going to suggest that from a front-on perspective, but visibly from down the line, we get to about halfway back and things are looking good. And then it's as if the restriction we've placed in your right leg, some part of you might be working around that to try and get I can feel muscles in my lower back working harder than they normally would to just replicate coming out of posture a little bit, growing taller, and my shoulders getting a little bit flatter, which is the sort of broader appearance that you're complaining about, and I don't really blame you. So it would be interesting to me if you stood up at your full height and you rotated the club around and about to see how far you could get, keeping the club level with the ground, and then tip yourself into posture, all right, and see if you can sustain that angle and see what the kind of length of your backswing is. So from the front-on perspective, that sort of quirky little gaining of height that happens in the second half of your backswing, it's hard to tell whether it's idiosyncratic, whether it's a result of flexibility or a lack thereof in your body, or whether it's just a quirk or an interpretation. So is it an intention which is misplaced, or is it a physical interpretation of something that's the right idea but just you can't do it because your body won't allow you to do it? So I'm still kind of up in the air a little bit about that one, I'm afraid to say, because obviously we don't get to spend hours and hours together, but we'll work it through. So I think the recommendations I'd make is that the sort of other corresponding element of it, you're talking about weight transference. Now you were adamant, you said, okay, I know, and it's like you firmly believe that you've got to transfer your body weight onto your right foot during the backswing. Now, I agree with you. But weight transference happens more like this. I'll give you an example here. I can move my center of mass vertically over, so I'll move it. It's about, that represents a point that's my sort of central point, center of mass in my upper body. I can move sideways and it will feel distinctly to me like my right foot is pressing into the ground more than my left. And you can see me illustrating that by having my left foot off the ground. So when I do that, I've achieved my goal of making it feel like my body weight is on my right foot. Trouble with doing that is I've moved the center of my swing to the right quite significantly. So the low point is going to happen further back, realistically, unless, of course, I move it back again. So as a player, you can move off and recenter, and that's not going to necessarily be wholly negative. It's just a consideration that that's a moving part that we'd have to regulate. So it may be a source of inconsistency. Again, when you get to about here and then push for shifting your body weight over it, that might be what we're seeing. So it might be that impetus that you're putting on yourself that's creating that. I would say in reality, what's being described versus what happens in real time is something more akin to this. Your weight transference is a fluid environment. It's a transient thing. It's very brief. It's very fleeting. So for example, if I transfer my body weight 100% from my right foot to my left foot, if I march on the spot, you can see my head isn't moving significantly. It is a bit, but it's not moving rampantly from side to side. So of course, if I'm trying to do this in slow-mo and try and get the hang of it, or trying to get the hang of it as a player, and I go, right, okay, weight's on my right side, we get possibly that interpretation of the backswing where we're sort of, looking like we might be gaining height, or just angles are a little bit out of whack. So if it's more this, so we're staying in the same place. The bow and arrow idea is a good one. That's a title of one of the videos that's available to you that you can watch. But it's like you're an archer. You just rotate as far as you can go. You don't add to that. You don't significantly try and sort of move your weight onto your right foot and then come back again. You could, but the question would be why. When we can do that, all right, so we're briefly on that, and then we're going the other way. So we're doing sort of 2 rotations. Your backswing, your forward swing. So it's kind of like, this is the way it will sort of feel, that kind of thing. So you're staying in the same place, only a partial rotation there, but that back and forth, that gives the illusion like my head is sort of almost on a gimbal, like it's almost not attached to me, backwards and forwards. All right, so finally, I think I've maybe just about got through all the points that a certain someone lists for me to do, getting his 25 quid's worth. Had to sneak that in somewhere. All right, come on you Spurs. I think when it comes to the differences between the metal wood and the iron swing, I'm going to put a video, overlay a video, do a cutaway to a video that will just be running while I'm saying these words. So I guess I could be quite rude to the camera at this point. Oh no, sorry, there. Right, I'll put it on the screen now. So this guy does a lovely demonstration. There aren't that many really, really good demonstrations. This is a decent one. I don't plagiarize or pinch people's work too often. It just saved me doing this video myself. But you can see that center line that you have, that the camera automatically projects. Perhaps there's a hint that your head moves a long way to the right of this, well, you can see in this illustration it's a red line. Same is true of the guy in the video there. His swing moves quite significantly to the right in the case of the wood shot, and then he recenters, but he doesn't keep moving forwards of that line. Whereas in the case of the iron, as you can see clearly there, that guy is content to let his motion move forwards of that red line. And the real strict reason for that is because of the design characteristics of the club. With the irons, you've generally got more loft, you've generally got a more forward-leaning shaft until you get into the real top end of irons, like 4 irons and 3 irons. You don't really want to hit predominantly down on those irons, those long irons, but medium irons, mid irons and short irons, you can very much hit more downwards onto the ball, which that illustration that's playing simultaneously as my commentary here is showing you. So you're more bottoming out or hitting slightly on the up is the way it's going to feel. Your head stays behind the red line for the metal wood shot from the front on angle, and your head can slide to the left of that line a little bit. I wouldn't go too hell for leather on that, but it is slightly different in that respect. From the down the line angle, and here I am back on the screen, from the down the line angle, a longer club would precipitate a taller aspect, so your spine angle might be taller than a shorter club. One of your shortest clubs, you might have to put more forward bend into it, and in that respect alone, that's the way I would say your iron and wood swings, metal wood swings, would differ from down the line. So the angle that you're swinging on is subtly adjusted to suit the club and to suit maintaining your balance. So I would be consistent in that outlook, but from the front on perspective, you can hit downwards more on the iron if you want and see where that gets you. It can deliver some satisfactory results. And you'd hit more, certainly more on the up for a metal wood, you know, more from this side. The center of mass would be more initially behind the ball and stay behind the ball predominantly, as you can see, until at least after the ball is struck. And then with the iron, the center of mass could be closer up on the ball and wander more in front of it, and that would be fine too. But none of that excuses you of decent rotation. None of that excuses you of deciding on which hole you like best and then just sticking with it from there on out. I would try and get your palm facing the target, and keep doing what you're doing with your right knee. I'm fairly convinced that it's not the bracing of your right knee that limits your rotation to the fullest. I'm pretty certain that it's more to do with the fact that you're trying to transfer your body weight onto this right foot a little excessively, a little exaggeratedly. That's my take on it. We may find out differently. We'll have to see where we go with this. Lastly, and by no means least, there's another video which I'm saying to camera to remind me to put the link on for you. But there's a more sort of full and complete, not just a halfway backswing check, but there's a sort of stabilizer for your backswing, which I've done, and I've forgotten the title of it, so I'll have to go searching for it. But it sort of carries on from halfway back all the way to the top, and it's quite a nice visual drill, I remember, which involves a line and some paraphernalia, but it just saves time reiterating it on this particular video. But anyway, those are your main rabbits that I need you to chase. Chase one at a time, you might catch one at a time, and then you'll end up with a collection of several rabbits in your menagerie, rather than chasing them all at once simultaneously and then standing there and realizing you can't catch any of them because you weren't focused explicitly on any one of them. Just corner one of them and then ring its... No, I'm going too far with this. Just one at a time, mate. Otherwise you catch none. All right, you get my drift. Catch you soon.